Factfulness: 10 Reasons We're Wrong About the World, and Why Things Are Better Than You Think by Hans Rosling is a profound exploration of how global perspectives are often skewed and misled by biases and misconceptions. Rosling, a renowned Swedish statistician and public health expert, co-authors the book with his son Ola Rosling and daughter-in-law Anna Rosling Rönnlund. They collectively examine the prevalent gap instinct in how people view global development, poverty, and progress. Here's an in-depth look at the core ideas, chapters, and Rosling's major arguments in Factfulness. Overview and theme. At its heart, Factfulness encourages a fact-based, nuanced worldview that challenges the common narratives of fear and pessimism often amplified in media and politics. Rosling argues that most people have a fundamentally distorted perception of the world, often underestimating the progress that has been made in health, education, and overall well-being across the globe. The book emphasizes that humanity has progressed far more than we tend to acknowledge, with data proving that issues such as poverty, child mortality, and disease have seen considerable improvement. Rosling isn't pushing blind optimism. Rather, he advocates for a more balanced and evidence-based approach to understanding global issues, providing readers with tools to break down their own biases and look at the world with a fact-driven perspective. Structure and key concepts. Rosling structures Factfulness around 10 instincts that contribute to our misunderstandings of global progress. Each chapter focuses on a different instinct, identifying the underlying psychological biases and providing practical ways to counteract them. The gap instinct. Rosling points out how people tend to think in terms of dichotomies, like rich versus poor, or developed versus developing countries. This binary thinking blinds us to the nuances of global progress. In reality, most countries fall into a middle income level and are making strides in health, infrastructure, and education. The author uses World Bank data to show how the gap between developed and developing nations has shrunk significantly. The negativity instinct. This instinct describes our tendency to focus on negative news, which leads to a pessimistic outlook on global progress. Rosling argues that while we often hear about crises, disasters, and setbacks, this doesn't mean the world as a whole isn't improving. For instance, global poverty rates, literacy levels, and life expectancies have all seen improvement over recent decades. Rosling encourages readers to balance their perspective by considering positive trends alongside the bad news. The straight line instinct. Many people assume that current trends will continue in a straight line, which can lead to misunderstandings. For example, Rosling demonstrates how population growth, which many assume will continue to rise indefinitely, is actually stabilizing as birth rates decrease in many parts of the world. The fear instinct. Rosling describes how fear distorts our perception of risks. He points to issues like terrorism or natural disasters, which are often sensationalized in the media. These events are comparatively rare but receive intense coverage, which leads us to overestimate their impact. The size instinct. Our tendency to interpret single numbers without context, such as the absolute number of people in poverty, often misguides us. Rosling suggests breaking down large figures and comparing them to a total to get a realistic sense of scale. The generalization instinct. This instinct involves our tendency to group things together, often leading to stereotypes and overgeneralizations. For instance, assuming that all African countries are the same ignores the vast diversity within the continent. By understanding countries on a spectrum, we can approach each more fairly and accurately. The destiny instinct. Rosling challenges the belief that certain countries or cultures are inherently destined to remain underdeveloped. Many assume that cultural or religious aspects predetermine a nation's future, but Rosling argues that countries can, and do, change over time. The single perspective instinct. People tend to latch onto one viewpoint to explain complex phenomena, which can lead to oversimplified solutions. Rosling encourages embracing multiple perspectives, allowing for a more comprehensive understanding of issues. The blame instinct. This instinct is about our tendency to assign blame to individuals or groups for large problems. Rosling argues that it's often more productive to focus on systems and patterns rather than scapegoating individuals. The urgency instinct. Rosling concludes by examining the human tendency to act impulsively under pressure, which can lead to poor decision-making. By slowing down and taking a more deliberate approach, we can make better informed choices without succumbing to the sense of urgency. Key takeaways and lessons. Factfulness offers readers tools to analyze information critically and make better sense of the data we encounter daily. It teaches readers to recognize and counteract cognitive biases, approach global issues with a balanced, fact-based perspective, make decisions using data rather than emotions or sensationalized news. The book is filled with practical advice and illustrative examples, from health data to income distribution, that paint a fuller picture of global trends. Rosling's use of charts, graphs, and simple language makes the book accessible and engaging, even when discussing complex topics. Critique and reception. Factfulness has been praised for its optimistic yet realistic approach. Many readers find Rosling's insistence on a fact-based worldview refreshing, especially in a media landscape that often prioritizes shocking and negative stories. Critics, however, sometimes argue that Rosling downplays some ongoing issues or that his optimism may not fully account for the nuances in certain crises, such as climate change. Bill Gates, a vocal advocate of the book, praised it for aligning with his own view of optimistic realism and distributed it to graduates as a must-read. This endorsement contributed significantly to its popularity and adoption in educational settings, where it serves as a foundation for discussions on statistics, sociology, and development. Final thoughts. Factfulness is a powerful call to approach the world with curiosity, openness, and an emphasis on evidence. Rosling's humor, honesty, and insistence on embracing data make it an inspiring read for those interested in understanding the world beyond common myths. By acknowledging and countering our instincts, Rosling believes we can build a clearer, more accurate understanding of global progress and more meaningfully contribute to a better future.